Many disabled or chronically ill people pick up beliefs along the way that their value depends on how little or how much support they need. But this belief, amongst others, can quietly erode your self-esteem and make you feel absolutely horrendous about yourself. If you've ever felt like your worth is attached to how you behave or what you can do, then this video is for you. Hello and welcome back to Unwinding Minds. If you're new here, hi! It's nice to meet you. I'm Rosie. I'm a chronically ill counsellor based in the UK who specialises in supporting disabled, neurodiverse and chronically ill people with managing their mental health. I also make these videos as a supplement to offering counselling services to support everyone, including those who cannot access counselling with a professional like myself. It's important to state, however, that these videos are not a substitute for counselling. They're only intended to support with psychoeducation. Today, we're talking about a concept in person-centered therapy, which you may have already come across before, and I'll be unpacking some common ways that conditions of worth influence disabled, neurodiverse, and chronically ill people with some clear examples. But to begin, let's define what conditions of worth are, shall we? The short version is this. Conditions of worth are the unspoken rules that we learn about what makes us lovable, acceptable, or good enough. Conditions of worth tend to develop in childhood, though they can come to be during adulthood as well. They develop when a person observes that they are only valued or accepted if they behave in certain ways. Instead of feeling worthy just for being yourself, you come to believe you must earn self-worth or love through actions or behaviours. This can also mean believing that some thoughts, feelings or behaviours are completely unacceptable because showing them might lead to rejection or loss of approval. As a result, the person struggling with a condition of worth can feel pressure to act in particular ways in order to feel good enough. So, how do conditions of worth develop? Well, as I mentioned earlier on, conditions of worth usually form in early life, but not always. They are sometimes tied directly to individuals, such as parents, but commonly they're influenced or learned on a wider basis through relationships and systems. They can develop when love or praise was linked to achievement or compliance, or sometimes when emotional needs were dismissed or minimized. They also tend to develop when independence was rewarded more than interdependence, or when vulnerability was met with discomfort or silence. For disabled people, they're often reinforced later by the following: medical systems that prioritize improvement over well-being and minimization of suffering, societal narratives that equate worth with productivity, being praised for coping so brilliantly or being brave and strong while struggling on the inside, internalized ableism, the idea that needing support is a moral failure, and even more, but over time these messages can become internal voices. An important component when we think of conditions of worth is introjected values, so apologies, but yet another explanation is coming your way now. This is really important though, and you'll come to see why, I promise. Introjected values are beliefs people hold about who they are, which they've absorbed from others rather than discovered for themselves. In person-centered theory, they're described as judgments taken from the outside world and treated as if they define the person's true self. Examples of introjects include beliefs like, I need to be perfect, I am unlovable, or I should care about everyone else. These beliefs can be hard to live up to because they're often extreme or unrealistic. Since they come from other people's expectations rather than the person's own experience, they may not reflect who the person truly is. People can also hold introjects that clash with each other, meaning that meeting one belief may cause them to fail at meeting another, leaving them feeling constantly dissatisfied or inadequate. Now, with the understanding of an introjected value in hand, we can see how over time the repetition of an introjected value could lead to a condition of worth forming. These concepts are particularly poignant when we consider disability, neurodivergence, or chronic illness, and the learned beliefs taken in from society, from family, educational systems, and the media. These beliefs are introjected from external parties and then become internalized to the point that self-esteem can be strongly influenced, and happiness too as a result. I want to be really clear here. Introjected values are not synonymous with truth. A view being commonly held or expressed does not make it correct. We only need to think about how commonplace the belief that the earth was flat was many thousands of years ago to see that commonplace doesn't necessarily mean accurate. Commonly, social values around disability are affected by a lot of factors, such as religions, or from the desire of abled people to separate from disability, or from a place of fear. I'll be making a video about that soon, though I'm not really sure when. Anyway, back to the topic. Introjected values are a reflection not of truth, but of society's relationship to disability as a whole. Some examples of common introjects disabled people may carry include: I am a burden to society. I need to hide my disability to be accepted. My value depends on how independent I am. I need to be strong and look unbothered by this so that I don't upset other people. There are many more, of course, but that's just a few to start with. These beliefs don't come from the disability themselves, they come from ableism. From an early age, many disabled people receive quiet and repeated messages that they're inconvenient, too much, or only acceptable if they minimize their needs. These messages come not just from individuals, but from systems, schools, workplace, media, and environments that aren't built with disabled people in mind. Over time, the thing that tends to happen is that those external judgments can be slowly taken in and they begin to feel like personal truths. When spaces fail to accommodate difference, the responsibility is often placed on the disabled person rather than the system. This can gently but powerfully shape beliefs like, I'm the problem, or I must adapt even when it hurts me. Without realizing it, these beliefs can influence how someone sees themselves, what they allow themselves to endure or need, and how much space they feel entitled to take in the world. By the way, I probably should have said this earlier, but conditions of worth affect everybody, whether you are disabled or not, or neurotypical or not. In fact, conditions of worth often have a strong impact on neurodivergent individuals as well, in terms of masking. Neurodivergent people are often taught, either subtly or overtly, that their worth depends on how well they conform or make themselves easier for others, rather than being valued for who they are. So now that we have a good grasp and understanding of conditions of worth, we've looked at some examples of introjected values, I'm sure some of us are quite eager to figure out what the heck can be done about them. So I'll do my best to unpack that now. By the way, if you've reached this far into the video, thank you. I appreciate you being here. Don't forget to like the video if you're enjoying it, or to subscribe if you want to. It's up to you. In terms of what we do about introjected values and conditions of worth, it helps to look at it as a bit of a layered process. The first layer really is awareness. In order to decide if we want to change a value, we need to see why it exists, that it exists, and how it helps or hinders us. There are some things that we can do solo here, but I do recommend counselling, obviously, as a counsellor can help you to explore what your conditions of worth are. A helpful first step is noticing the rules that you live by. Asking yourselves questions like, what do I believe I must do to be acceptable? What happens internally when I can't meet those expectations? Ugh, sticky questions, huh? And then we can gently question them. Who taught me this? Where did I learn this? Is this belief kind? How does this belief affect me practically and emotionally? And finally, the tried and tested. Would I expect this of somebody that I love dearly? As I said, you can reflect on those questions on your own. That's totally fine. But counselling is also a great option here for many reasons. The biggest reason that counselling with a skilled counsellor is such a healing space is because you're met with acceptance and care that isn't conditional. You don't have to be productive, positive, or coping well. You're allowed to be tired, tearful, angry, or unsure. And there's no need to perform. A therapist can gently help you to explore where conditions of worth came from, how your experiences, your story may have shaped your self-esteem, and how to build your self-compassion up. For many disabled people, therapy becomes that sadly rare place where they don't have to earn their right to exist as they are. They can simply be. And another thing that can help from a counsellor, we can remind you that you didn't reach negative conclusions about yourself or the world on your own. Systems and social constructs exist to create conformity, and you're not at fault for having developed harmful beliefs that might have built up over time. The second layer after this is awareness. It's gentle reflection. Rather than challenging conditions of worth aggressively or trying to replace them with positive thinking, the kinder and more productive thing is to focus on helping you recognize where these beliefs come from, whether they truly reflect your lived experience, and what you want to do next. As introjected values and conditions of worth loosen their grip, individuals may begin to reconnect with a more authentic sense of self, one that's grounded in listening to internal experiences and trusting your own feelings, values, and experiences, rather than relying on external judgments to inform how you ought to feel about yourself. This process can allow greater self-compassion, a bit more freedom of choice, and a sense of worth that's no longer dependent on meeting ableist, perhaps, expectations. I won't pretend it's an easy process, but there are things you can do to support yourself too. Things like becoming aware of your accommodation needs and reminding yourself that needing accommodations is not some moral failing. Or it might mean setting boundaries to protect your body, mind, and energy. Or dare I say it, learning to ask for help. You deserve to have space in this world, and you're allowed to have needs that look different from others. In my time working with disabled people, a hugely common thing to work through is unlearning the idea that worth is tied to capacity, or recovery, or independence. We're quick to celebrate the idea of diversity, but this is diversity in action. I've never met two people who needed exactly the same things, or the same things to the same degree. This is where the beauty of humanity comes from. We're complicated. We need different stuff. You're allowed to need different stuff. So if you've made it this far, please know that I'm very, very grateful to you. If this episode has resonated with you, please take a second to like it, to subscribe, or to share it with someone else who may find it beneficial. And learning more about conditions of worth can be very beneficial to pretty much anyone. You never know, you might make a really big difference to their life too. We make a lot of videos about chronic illness, disability, neurodivergence, and mental health on this channel. And I'm always really eager to learn what people want to see more of. So if you have any thoughts, put them down in the comments section below. I do read through the comments. And check the description if you are interested in working with me on a one-to-one basis, as I do offer private counselling. Thanks so much for watching, and take really good care.